My pleasure to introduce, someone get up here, get his jacket on. Glad a few of the CC players showed up today.
They don't want to hear me talk.
It's my pleasure to introduce Dave, who grew up in Livonia playing travel hockey with the Livonia Knights. He's the antipathy of the theory that you have to play AAA hockey year-round and cost your parents 2 to 3 times the normal amount it costs to play because you'll never make it to play at higher levels. In fact, yesterday I saw a guy in a street corner yesterday, sign that said, I have a home, I have a car, but my kids play AAA hockey. In fact, this player decided to go on and play for his high school at Catholic Central, and from there he ended up being drafted by Calgary Flames. He played 4 years first for the University of Michigan, 6 years for the Flames, 3 more for Phoenix, and then a season in Europe. And now that he's hung up his pro career, he's back coaching at the high school level. This year he helped Brian Kalnicki at Catholic Central. So I introduced you Dave Moss, a dream teamer in high school hockey, 2000, and near 2000, who was beaten out for Mr. Hockey by Andy Green. Who's that? Andy, who played high school hockey also at Trenton and is still in the NHL with New Jersey. Let's hear it for Dave.
Thank you, John. I think they got the right Mr. Hockey that year. Andy's still playing. He's a good friend and a good ambassador of high school hockey as well. I think I'll start off by saying, like John alluded to, I'm a huge believer in high school hockey. That's why I'm helping coach CC right now. That's why I'm here. 17 years ago, I was in most of your guys' shoes, the student athletes, wondering what the future held. Excited for my next step. And like many of you, I was the guy who was undecided. Not sure what I was going to do. I was going to play junior hockey, but I was excited to go, and also terrified at the prospect of having to do my own laundry. When John asked me to speak tonight, instantly I said, yes, of course. I love giving back, and it's an honor. But there was only one problem. I said, John, what do I talk about? And he said, just go up there and just wing it, and, like Darren McCarty did. So I'm up here trying to do that. And the answer for me came a few days later when John asked me to do an interview for Hockey Week. We sat down to chat, and about halfway through the interview, he asked me a question that I've seen to answer maybe hundreds of times throughout my career. And that question was, how did you make it? As a kid who played AA hockey, a kid who was on the practice squad of his high school hockey team as a sophomore, a kid who weighed 180 pounds soaking wet as a college freshman, a kid who was drafted in the 7th round, 220th overall. How did you make it? And I told John, like hockey players normally do, and you see in interviews, you got to work hard and have luck and all that stuff, which is true, but later I got to thinking, how did I make it? And I jotted down some stories throughout my career, throughout my life, that are reasons why I think I made it. So if you bear with me, I'll tell you a few stories, and hopefully we get out of here before 5 o'clock. My second season in Calgary, we had a young defenseman, and his name, he's going to remain nameless for this story, but we'll call him, his nickname was Rammer. So he was called up midway through the season. Rammer was a second-round pick, 39th overall in Calgary. He was a smooth skating defenseman from Switzerland, had a great shot, and could fly. At that time, our head coach was Mike Keenan. And for you younger guys, the older guys in the room probably know him. He was known as Iron Mike. He was a tough coach. He demanded that you did things a certain way, and if you didn't, you likely heard about it. For me, more than once. But meetings on game days with Mike were at 6 o'clock. On this particular day, Mike came into the room at 5:59, and every player was sitting in a stall, except for one. Rammer came into the room 1 minute later, right at 6. Mike colorfully explained to Rammer that as a rookie playing his first NHL game, he might not want to be the last one into a pregame meeting. The meeting passed, and Rammer was ready for his NHL career to begin. On his first shift, Anaheim scored. That was Rammer's last shift of the night. After the game, he was sent down to Calgary's minor league team in Quad Cities. Rammer never played another NHL game. One shift, 45 seconds, -1 is his stat line. Some people will say he wasn't good enough to make it in the NHL. I think he would have made a better impression if he wasn't the last one into that meeting. So if you want to know how to make it, start by showing up on time. By my senior season at CC, I knew it all, or so I thought. I can still remember my coach Todd Johnson's face as we go through our power play options. I would freelance and do my own thing, and he'd get this tomato face that was red from screaming at me to stick to the system. And I'd tell him, yeah, Todd, like, I think we should do this or do that. Like I said, I knew it all. Fast forward to later that year in the playoffs, we were playing Farmington. We were up big in the third period, and I was in front of the net, and one of their demons punched me in the head, and I stuck him somewhere that resulted in me getting a 2 and 10 minute penalty. And as I went to the box, I could see Todd's tomato face coming at me, and he grabbed me in the penalty box. We were playing at Old Bedford Arena, where the box is right next to the bench, and he grabbed me by the shoulder pads, and he said, "Get to the locker room now." You can't leave the penalty box, go to the locker room in the middle of the game. And he wasn't asking me, so I followed him to the locker room. And the next 2 minutes of him screaming, I wasn't sure what he was saying, but he said something to me that I remembered. And he said, "You'll never be able to play anywhere if you aren't coachable." I didn't know what he meant at the time, but I knew he was right. If there's one reason I made it, it's because I was coachable. When a coach asked me to do something, I always did it. Never complained. At least not to their face. Did I always agree with coaches? No. But I've never seen a player get cut or benched for doing what a coach asks. So if you want to know how to make it, always remember to be coachable. My first pro season in Omaha was for Omaha, Calgary's minor league team. It went pretty well. I led the rookies in scoring and ended my season with a knee injury. Despite the injury, I was called up to Calgary as an emergency for the playoffs. I didn't play a game in the first round versus Anaheim. Calgary lost, but I gained valuable experience in seeing how NHL players prepared and how they worked. Coming into training camp the next season, I felt ready. I trained hard in the summer, my knee felt great, I was ready to make the jump. The first preseason game rolled around, and I was in the lineup. I was filled with energy. I was focused to show I could play at the NHL level. The game didn't go quite as I planned. I played 5 minutes, and after the game I was called to my coach's office and told I was nowhere near ready to play at the NHL level. I was sent to the minors that night. I was crushed. I felt so close to my dream, but being told I was so far away. When I arrived in Omaha, I had a meeting with my coach, Ryan McGill. I expressed my frustration, thinking I deserved a better chance. He gave me some of the best advice I've ever got. He said, "Life isn't about what happens to you. It's about how you respond that matters." He was telling me, "What do you do now? Do you want to feel sorry for yourself or put the work in and earn it?" I did the latter. I put my head down to work. I watched 5 other guys get called up ahead of me that season, but on December 19th, I got my chance. I scored my first 3 NHL games and never looked back. So if you want to know how to make it, remember it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you respond that matters. My brother used to tell me that my ambition outweighed my talent. He was right. But it was easy to see in a guy like me. I wasn't big or strong or fast. Our bench press test at University of Michigan was 185 pounds, as many times as you could do it. My freshman year, I did 2. And the second one was the spotter, pulling the bar off my chest. I wasn't a great skater, and I didn't have a great shot. I had decent hockey sense, and that helped me make up for my other deficiencies. But that wasn't enough to make it. I had to have ambition. I had to want it. I saw this firsthand my first week in the NHL with Calgary. After our game on December 23rd, most players hurried home to take a shower and enjoy a 3-day break with their families. I followed suit, being a rookie, not knowing any better, but before I left the rink, I headed into the weight room to grab a water. When I opened the door, I saw 2 people. Rich Hesketh, who was a strength and conditioning coach, and Jerome McGinley. Iggy was doing squats and sweating profusely. He explained to me that he worked so hard after games so he could recover for the upcoming off days and feel stronger when the playoffs roll around. In that moment, a light bulb went off in my head. Here's a future Hall of Famer with more skill than anybody on the team. But yet his ambition outweighed his talent. So if you want to know how to make it, make sure your ambition outweighs your talent. Both of my parents worked when I was growing. My dad is the general manager for General Electric Company. My mom's a nurse. This meant mornings where they both were out of the house before it was time to go to school, probably like many of you. As a result, I was left with notes on my kitchen table. Who was picking me up, tuck your shirt in, comb your hair, do your homework, and in big bold letters on the bottom of the notes said, "No free lunches, love Mom." As a freshman in high school, I had no clue what that meant. Most times I didn't make it reading past who was picking me up that day. But as time went on, those 3 words, "no free lunches," were on every note. Finally, I had to ask, "Mom, why do you keep writing this on every single note?" Her answer was simple. She said, "Nothing's free in this world, and you have to work for everything you get." As high school turned to college, college turned to pro hockey. One line always remained, bottom of the email, text, or phone call. No free lunches. Work hard today. If you want to know how to make it, remember there's no free lunches. You are all months, some a year away from trying to make it in this world. Some of you will go on to play hockey. Some will go on to careers of your choice. No matter what path you take, if you remember these lessons, to start by showing up on time, to remember to always be coachable, to listen and learn from your mentors. Remember that it's not what happens to you, but how you respond. Make sure that your ambition always outweighs your talent, and that you always remember that in this world, nothing comes easy, and you have to work for everything you get. And there's never, ever any free lunches. Thanks for having me, and best of luck in the future.